Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Industry Distilled podcast. I'm your host, Elaine Duff, along with my lovely co-host, Jason Littrell.
Nailed it.
Our guest this week is distiller and owner of New York Distilling, and as the Director of Spirits Education and Mixology at Southern Wine and Spirits, please welcome Mr. Alan Katz.
Yeah.
Good to see you both.
Great
Live
to have
and nearly
you.
in person.
Right.
Nearly in person. When we're not here, you can find us at our Instagram, among other places, at Duff on the Rocks, at Jason Littrell, or at New York Distillery Man, or check out our video of the show on the Industry Distilled Facebook page. So here are the headlines for the week of September 4th. New dietary guidelines on alcohol consumptions, undercut sound science. Paper bottle innovations bring sustainable packaging to the forefront. New York indoor dining will return, but moderately. Restaurants' employment recovery has slowed, and a man buys a house with whiskey collection given to him since birth. All right, so at the top of the news, we're going to talk about the New York dietary guidelines on alcohol consumption. So this is interesting. So I never believed the science behind any of this, but the New York Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, also a group referred to as some by the nanny state bureaucrats, has suddenly decreed that the definition of what constitutes moderate alcohol consumption for both men and women should top out at 1 drink per day.
As if they were all created
not
equal.
One of those people. Yeah, exactly. I have never followed those guidelines, and I
Didn't say
should.
what time.
All right,
of
so
day
the problem
either,
is, it did not say what time of day either. Is there a specific time of day we should be just having 1 drink a day? Is it just 1 drink per hour? The problem is that the overwhelming scientific evidence does not support the change, which generally required in the DGACS charter. Instead, the committee's recommendation leaves only 1 of 60 available studies approved for review, and on several unapproved academic papers that focus on the dangers of high alcohol intake. So basically, they're basing this report on binge drinking, according to this study. Many believe that the eagerness to discredit moderate drinking stems not from the science, but from the persistent strain of anti-alcohol ideology. Hate those people. Anti-alcohol campaigners and academics would prefer people not to drink at all, and many in the new temperance movement would like to see tobacco-style regulations apply to alcohol. So for those hardliners, the well-known benefits of moderate drinking are only a barrier on the road of the new prohibition. Yay, we all know how well that worked out the first time, don't we? Mm-hmm. Good times ahead. The good news is that thankfully some government officials like their booze as much as we do. And in response to this rogue approach, 5 U.S. senators and nearly 30 representatives sent a letter to the Secretary of Agriculture and Health and Humane Services, asking them to explain the process to them and to give them the science behind this. So if you're wondering, so I was actually wondering, I was like, who cares? Like, why would this matter to any of us? We're still going to drink the way we want, but it will have repercussions if this actually goes to pass. So basically, this is what could happen if it does get passed. So it would cause confusion for the public, making them less equipped to make informed choices about their drink choices. And also would undermine their faith in the agriculture's recommendation of federal agencies. Do any of us have faith in the federal agencies? I'm not sure, but I guess some people do. Lawmakers deliberating on other alcohol-related matters could easily look at these guidelines and codify it into one of the more binding regulations that would unwittingly cement a scientifically valid health standard into law, which would lead to another prohibition. So that would not be good for any of us. And obviously, this would be a huge economic impact on the economy of the business that all of us are in. So directly and indirectly on the alcohol beverage industry. So it obviously would impact all the millions of workers, like distillers, farmers. Did you just put something up, Jason, that I missed?
No.
Sorry.
Shuffling papers.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you were giving me a sign, and
No.
And I missed it.
No,
all right. So millions of workers directly.
I'm just like thinking that
this
seems like a totally toothless thing. Seems like these people are just like, oh, we don't like alcohol. So why are we even paying attention to this? I don't know.
It's true, but it definitely is going to have an impact. So this is what they're saying. So this could impact all of us. So like it could impact Alan with his distillery. It's going to impact the workers. So basically people who work directly with the industry, and indirectly, if people start drinking less, and if something goes into law, then maybe it will restrict how much alcohol we're allowed to buy at the liquor store. It might restrict, it doesn't say any of that. This is just my own analysis of what could happen, like how many drinks they could serve you at a bar or restaurant. And obviously anybody who works in this industry, down to the farmers who supply the grains or the wine growers who supply the grapes, this could have an impact across the board of millions of people worldwide. So Alan, what are your thoughts on this as a consumer and as a distiller?
Well, I have a few thoughts. I mean, yes, this does come up from time to time, and I take it seriously. And if there was science behind it, in these days, I want to follow science. I absolutely do. If you drink too much, it's not good for you. We know that. But in this regard and in this time specifically, I don't really think anyone has the appetite, and I say this without being crass, to make doing business, particularly for small business, more onerous than it already is. We're all
Absolutely.
in hospitality struggling. Doesn't necessarily mean we've all read things, that in the retail world, it's not quite the same dire situation as it is in on-premise or restaurants and hotels and bars, et cetera. But there's not going to be a government appetite to make things more onerous. And the truth is, usually when these types of reports come out, the groups that are most well prepared include DISCUS, the Distilled Spirits Council of the United States, which we as New York Distilling Company are members of, and also the American Craft Spirits Association. And I don't know whether it's in tandem or not, but for years, the Distilled Spirits Council has had a wonderful medical and science-forward presentation that papers are drawn from, with medical professionals from Harvard and the like, really discussing the finer points of health considerations based on the consumption of alcohol. And that position has not changed in terms of what moderate drinking is and the health benefits of moderate drinking. The truth is, we're all individuals. It's going to affect us differently. But both as a consumer and a distiller, I'm not in favor of anything that's going to affect me more onerously in terms of the choices that I have. I make spirits that I'm a fan of. Doesn't mean they're for everyone. There's a time and place for just about everything, I suppose. But
I think so as well.
Well,
but,
I mean, we also know that
Jason.
if you eat chocolate cake 3 times a day, you're going to eventually get diabetes. It's like, what are we going to do? Ban chocolate cake? Or are we going to make the education available to people who are, potentially have a problem with alcohol?
Well, I think that's an interesting way to look at it as well, and how to provide help, when it's necessary to people that do struggle with alcohol or other addictions. But I think at the very base level, I'm not a doctor, but from the presentations I've attended and those things that I've been able to keep up on, not just recently, but for 20 plus years, that the science is there, that moderate consumption of alcohol does not adversely affect most adults. Let's be reasonable.
Let's be reasonable. I mean, my doctor one time told me, he's like, I said, what do you think about it? And he was a heart doctor, and he said, I don't believe any alcohol should be consumed. He's like, he didn't believe in the studies. He's like, listen, there are other studies out there that show that alcohol is damaging, even moderate drinking. He's like, there's a lot of us who believe that it should not be consumed. He's like, I love my wine. He's like, but it's still, I know the damage it does to me. So it's interesting. There are definitely medical doctors who have different opinions. And I guess it is all about moderate, but I do believe there should be clear guidelines. And obviously if this changes, this is going to make it very confusing for consumers out there. Like, should I only just have 1 drink a day, or should I really just moderate it to the weekends and only have 2 glasses of wine, which obviously will reduce sales. So it has to be clear. And I think they do have to put the science behind it.
And the other part,
and as you said, there is science behind it.
Yeah, that and culturally is really significant. And you sort of alluded to it with a little bit of tongue in cheek, but that for all the history that we've forgotten and that we don't even really teach civics in any, significant regard anymore, if you say the word prohibition, everyone in this country knows what you're talking about. We know what happened. We laugh at ourselves over the concept of prohibition, even without knowing a lot of the details behind it, that there was decades prior to prohibition that sort of bubbled to the surface that really led to its enactment. But the results were horrendous. It doesn't mean that things can't be addressed or refined, but I don't see strict rules having, significant effect. Certainly not positive effect, but I don't think it would even have that type of effect unless you were going so far as to ban the consumption of alcohol, which is not going to happen.
That's why I think that this is a largely toothless movement. It's just because the spirits lobby, the beverage alcohol lobby is just enormous, and it's like why would we attack this when I honestly think big pharma has a bigger problem. But I guess it's kind of apples and oranges, but I just don't see this as being a big problem in this country right now.
No, it's the least thing we should be worried about. If anything, we should just be encouraging people to consume.
I am
more
not
and
going
buy more
to address
things.
how much alcohol I've been consuming of the 6 months of COVID.
My drinking game is up. It's I've impressed myself.
Mine too, but also my fasting and exercise game has also gotten up.
I've seen that. That's I might need to address those.
I need to get on that.
It's like the simplest tactic in the world. If you feel like you're drinking too much, and you don't want to drink on an empty stomach, then you just don't eat. So you don't eat, you don't drink, and then magically you lose weight. It's weird.
And magically you lose weight. Yeah. I like it.
So speaking of losing weight, so we're talking, I'm just going to try to insert a segue there. We're going to talk about paper bottles now. So paper is less than glass, and so we're losing weight. All right. So paper bottle innovation brings sustainable packaging to the forefront. Recent IWSR research shows that environmental concerns are having an increasing influence on consumer purchasing decisions. So distillers, winemakers, brewers are all motivated to adapt to adopt sustainable packaging innovations, not just because it's ethical, but because it's in their best commercial interests. The paper bottle first came to our attention in October when Danish beer giant Carlsberg revealed 2 prototypes for what it had claimed was the world's first paper bottle for beer. I just don't even know how the math works on that. So they made a sustainably sourced wood fiber, and the prototype featured an inner barrier made from a thin film of plastic. The showcase of Carlsberg's green fiber bottle came 9 months after the launch of its Snap Pack innovation, which eliminated the need for plastic rings for multi-pack beers. Now, earlier this summer, British sustainable packaging firm Frugal Pack unveiled the Frugal bottle, made from 94% recycled paperboard and plastic food grade liner designed to hold wine and spirits. Again, I don't know how an 80 proof spirit would not just chomp on that. So the lightweight bottle is said to have a carbon footprint in its production process that is up to 6 times lower than the glass bottle. It's said to use up to 77% less glass than the full plastic bottle. So I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. Just a few shows ago, we talked about Diageo's entry into sustainability when they revealed that what is called the world's first 100% plastic-free paper-based spirits bottle. The bottle is made entirely from sustainably sourced wood and is expected to be fully recyclable. It will debut in early 2021 with Johnny Walker, and sources indicate this will likely be released only as a special edition. So, Elaine, what are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, when I saw that the special, I mean, as you've seen, I haven't seen any of these products on the market. I haven't seen a paper bottle of anything. I know people are talking about it. In my opinion, the Diageo, as I said, they're just putting it forward as a special edition, which basically means if they don't see a significant impact and an increase on sales,
they won't
stick with it.
They're probably curious about what the global shipping looks like and what kind of breakage and leakage they're going to have. My
Absolutely. I mean, everything when you work for large companies is a test, right? So they put things out there. It's like it was somebody's initiative and probably their bonus based on doing something more sustainable. So they put things out there. They're going to see what the impact is. Do consumers want to buy it more? Are they feeling more positive about the company? Anyway, it's a good marketing tactic to put it out there. It does not mean that Diageo suddenly become a full sustainable company. But they're testing the waters, which is good because they are leaders in the industry. So it is good for everybody. So hopefully it works, because if it works, then obviously it means they're going to start doing it for all their packaging across the board. But we'll see. Right now, it literally is it's a marketing tool that they're using right now.
Alan, from a distributor standpoint and a producer standpoint, I mean, what do you think what kind of impact do you think that would have on?
I'm a huge fan. I think, it takes big companies, whether it's Carlsberg or Big Diageo, to spend the money to do this research, I think is great. There's a much bigger picture that I hope at both the professional and the consumer level it starts to address. It's not just the packaging, it's what's in the bottle. And again, I sort of feel like there is a time and a place for most things, but if we're going to address sustainability in the package, it would also be of my interest to address sustainability of what's in the liquid as well. Are we using organic ingredients, or at the very least, from a grain standpoint, and I truly mean this, at the very least, non-GMO grains? And I think a positive side effect, if this does take at a consumer level, that those types of conversations will become more relevant and not just sideshow, oh, that's interesting, let somebody else do it. But if it's doable, I'm certainly curious, not just of the sustainability of the product, but how long it lasts on the shelf. If it's made from wood pulp, again, in the written word, that it's less destructive, less environmentally sensitive than making glass by 70-some%, as you said. I would want to read more about that. We use glass bottles. We don't use any plastic at New York Distilling Company, but we're small. So I understand that at the end of the day, people need packaging. So there has to be the fulfillment that could potentially meet the demand, and it has to be cost effective. But I'm all for it, and I hope it gets past experimental phase.
Yeah, I mean, you've had several different iterations for your various products at New York Distilling, and you have to create new molds, and there's an enormous amount of heat involved with creating glass. And I'm just curious, glass is really heavy, which impacts the cost of freight.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that's probably the largest, is the cost of shipping. One of the other, I'd call it very much a micro trend at the moment, at least there's interest in it, is the capacity to ship spirits in bulk. Legally registered containers at legally registered sizes, but to ship spirits in bulk and then use reusable bottles at the end source, at the bar, at the hotel bar, restaurant.
This is what Proof is doing in China.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Eco-totes.
Exactly right. So equal in its interest in, sustainable viability, and maybe there's space for all of these really interesting ideas.
Yeah,
no, that makes sense. And going back to going back also to the using non-GMO, and also, using what they're doing, the sustainable practices on the actual distillery itself, because I work with Kapali rum, and I will say there is something about the commercial viability. So Kapali is a zero impact distillery. They don't use any pesticides in their sugarcane. They recycle the spent fibers to put back as fertilizer. They collect, if you can believe it, all the rainwater. I was like, that can't be true. Then I found out it rains something like 22 inches of rain a year, and in Belize,
it's like homesteading. It's like homesteading distillery.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything is a zero impact. And I found that people, when I talk to some beverage buyers, they're like, oh yeah, no, that's why I'm buying Kapali. Like, it did change. They were like, I really like their it surprised me. Like, they knew more about the sustainability practices than I did. And that was one of the reasons they said they were buying it over a different brand. The liquid is good. I mean, the liquid still has to be good, and the liquid is good, but they were buying it because of that. I thought that was interesting.
That's a great awareness.
Yeah, it is. And I was like, really, that's changing your decision? And they're like, no, I'm really impressed by what they're doing, and I want to bring it in just for that. And
I think, again, driving it from our trade level and through consumer levels, there has to be an understanding that whether it's the environment you describe at Capelli in Belize, or paper packaging made from wood pulp, it costs a lot to set these things up. And so there is a tremendous investment on the front end. And I think there just has to be an awareness, if not acknowledgement or even respect, that it's still a business outlook. And at the end of the day, it's hopefully supporting a lot of people. But it takes some guts. And if there wasn't a better time now than ever to have some guts to try what others might think are crazy ideas, damn it, now's the time to do it.
Nah, what do you got to lose?
Yeah, big ups to Diageo and Carlsberg for corporate stewardship, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, some good news for all of us who live here in New York. So, New York City indoor dining will return at 25% on September 30th. So, just over 6 months after dining rooms closed due to coronavirus, New York City will be reopening its indoor dining. So, which is good news. Governor Cuomo announced the city restaurants be able to reopen on, as I said, September 30th, 25th. I did not write this well. So the if positive rates for COVID stay below, there's no significant increase, it will then increase to 50% dining by November 1st. At the moment, there are over more than 1,000 bars and restaurants that have permanently closed their bars, countless, and I'm sure there's countless more on the way. And I actually think that number is low, sadly. Many stated that actually they did say the reason why they chose to close is because there was no plan for indoor dining within New York City. And even with the 25% opening, so many have already stated that they're like, it's just not enough. It's not going to be enough to cover their cost. And it doesn't make sense for them to reopen. I would love to hear, I know, Alan, that I've been talking to Will. I don't know if you guys did, or as something you followed. People, Will Godera is on the Independent Restaurant Coalition, and I know they've been fighting hard to get the government to give any relief directly to our industry. I didn't know if you knew anything more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think all I know is what's in the paper, which is sad. Past the first stimulus package that was passed by the federal government, that in our industry and many others, we're sort of sitting here waiting and saying, well, is there going to be relief? I'm certainly in favor of it. It's the Restaurant Act of 2020 that Independent Restaurant Coalition has been instrumental in developing, in working with the White House and other congressional leaders. And there seems to be, tremendous bipartisan support. There just has to be a bill for it to be attached to. And it's a tremendous, essentially, $100+ billion grant program that would be structured as such that restaurants specifically and bars could get relief. The idea was through 2020. As you said, in New York City, we've got 1,000, likely more businesses already closed and more to come. But, think about it for us locally and then more broadly nationally. It's like this is the only way that these businesses are going to survive. 25% is a nice first step. I'm very much in favor of it. I hope it's not too little, too late for some, but it's still a tremendous challenge. I mean, think about running any business at 25%. It might cost more to run it. It means you have to bring more people in. You've got to have a little bit more flexibility in operating your business. It doesn't even speak to the degree that we hope that consumers are willing to walk through the front door. But,
you've always had a really interesting model with the shanty. I mean, you've always kind of cross-collateralized the things that you offer. Like you rent the distillery floor, you do tastings and tours. And then, how have you been able to fare? How's the shanty been able to fare as classified as a bar, not a restaurant?
Yeah, well, it's a good struggle right now. I mean, the truth is, like many others, we have put together an outdoor space. And for any number of reasons, we have basically closed any part of the inside of our operation to the public, save for one restroom. And we want to keep our space, if you will, as safe as can be for the employees that we do have there. With our primary distilling function is producing our gins and rye whiskeys. And fortunately, that's ongoing with a little bit of hand sanitizer thrown in there on the side now. But that's been ongoing, and where, frankly, our sales were off a cliff at the beginning, certainly through the spring. They're not stable by any means, but the losses have slowly decreased through the summer in a nice way. But we've been able to operate. We were open 3 days a week for outdoor service at the shanty. It's been good. It's retail, so it's inconsistent. Take yesterday, for example. We're sitting there looking up and saying, well, is it going to rain this afternoon? Is it worth opening? Maybe it says it's going to rain, but it doesn't feel like it. So you put the time and the energy in to try and put the best face on this and the best product out there, and have the best people that we have on our team available to offer a reasonable guest experience, but it's interdependent on the weather. So
yeah, which is crazy. And they are talking about, I mean, how do you feel? A lot of restaurant owners are saying, and does Shanty serve food? I don't remember. Like I remember eating.
yeah, we served a little bit of food. We had to up that game, so to
Right.
speak, amidst of the revised rules of the State Liquor Authority in New York. So we brought in food from one of our favorite local restaurants, which is Kings County Imperial. Great
This is
plug for them.
awesome.
I've never had a better soup dumpling in all of New York City.
So do you can they order like off a menu and they deliver it from Kings County? Are you
so
partnering
what
up,
they
or?
started doing amidst COVID times was before they had operations that were allowable for them to bring their own customers in, is they started selling sort of retooled items from their menu, flash frozen, that you could reheat at home. So
Okay.
we're purchasing that from them and serving it literally in steam trays and dishes as if you were sitting at Kings County Imperial.
Very clever idea. I was gonna say, and what do you feel about the people are asking also, they want outdoor dining to go past October 31st, which obviously is going to be quite chilly, but it's going to be necessary. And I was telling people, I'm like, get your heat lamps now.
You know, I think a lot of different things about this one. Yes, they should extend it. It's not going to be that much more, but for those that have already committed to it and made investments to put outdoor spaces together, and I've been, fortunate to see, whether online or even in person, outdoor setups in different parts of New York State and even in a couple other cities outside of New York. People have put their heart and soul and a lot of money into putting in creative spaces and functional spaces, for the most part, I laugh a little bit, that apply to the rules and regulations of physical distancing, et cetera. But I would say take it as long as possible. I don't know. It's easy for me to take a different tact and think of the safety of putting gas-powered heat lamps out on the sidewalk. Fortunately, there doesn't seem to have been any significant accidents with sidewalk or in-street dining, so to speak. And as we potentially get to, inclement weather, meaning snow, frozen rain, and those types of things, even come December, it's just not realistic. But I'd say any extension they can do of it that's reasonable is worthwhile at this point in time.
Absolutely.
Madness. Just switching back to the distillery just real quick. What we have done a lot of reporting about how people are kind of buying what they know in the off-premise, like in liquor stores. So this has kind of been at the expense of small brands and independent producers. What is your product mix for restaurants to bars or to liquor stores?
Pre-COVID, we were 65+% bars and restaurants.
Whoa. Okay.
And the balance to a retail trade. So again, we're not the only ones. Any brand is facing this. Certainly brands that are focused in New York City. We've been in business 9 years, and we've always, I hope and think with great humility, really celebrated the response that we've gotten consistently from friends, new friends and colleagues in bars and restaurants. That's been where our business development prospecting has always been. So for now, we have to retool a bit, and we're looking at opportunities for retail sales, certainly direct to consumer sales. And I think, like everyone who exists, if not on the planet, certainly in the country and in our industry, is digital platforms that have the means to bolster marketing and get the word out a little bit more pronounced and a little bit more fluidly through social media to create new business opportunities.
Is the sales staff at Southern still furloughed in New York?
The sales staff at Southern Glazers has now been brought back.
Okay, great.
There's a lot of different dynamics there. That includes, typically in most of the divisions, someone might be focused on premise and someone might be focused off. But, it's really a story of have and have not, because the on-premise trade has been so decimated in a 6-month period of time.
Decimated is
I know
definitely
a lot
the
of
right
people
word.
are just, it definitely is. And I know a lot of people are just using whatever inventory they have and not bringing on a lot of new stuff. And everybody's on COD. Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really is. It's really hard. Jason, I don't know. Do you want to go to the next story or should we go to the more fun story?
So Debbie Downer is back here to throw some numbers at you. So the restaurant employment recovery is slowed a bit, but you know what? I think we already know the story. These are a bunch of numbers. It's not as good as last year. Let's move on.
Fair enough. Yeah, we don't need to talk about the unemployment rate. We already know it's bad. And all right, so this is a more fun story. So a man buys a house with the whiskey collection given to him since birth. So a gentleman named Matthew Robinson from Taunton, England, received a bottle of Macallan single malt every year for 28 years from his father, who told him never to open them. And he actually didn't open them. He actually kept each of these bottles. So his father, Pete, reportedly got him his first bottle when he was born and has in total spent £5,000 to present, like for the 28 bottles over the course of the 28 years. Now, the 20-year-old plans to sell this collection, which is now valued at £40,000, to put a deposit on a house. So he's working with a whiskey broker, Mark Littrell, is selling the collection, told the BBC that the value of Macallan whiskey has risen massively in the past 5 to 10 years. There have been interest from buyers in New York, London, Singapore, and Hong Kong. So to put it into context, 53,000 may seem like a lot, but last year, a rare bottle of scotch made the headlines after it was sold for a world record of 1.45 million in London last year. Holy cow. I love this man. Like that gave him a bottle of whiskey. I thought that was really kind of fun. So first, Alan, do you think any bottle of whiskey is worth that much?
It's not worth it to me.
As a man who makes whiskey.
Yeah,
It's not worth it to me. I mean, I'm not sitting in front of my bar, but I am pretty sure, aside from a few replacements, there's basically not one unopened. There's not one unopened bottle of whiskey on my bar, and it's way too much whiskey for this lifetime for me. It's just not my MO. But if somebody is willing to do it, my pleasure is in drinking of it, but more power to whomever wants to sell it. And certainly if someone has the money to buy it, good for them.
Well, I'm with Souther Teague on this one. I'm not a collector. I'm a drinker. But also I think it's important to note here that these are 28 years of bottles that are that year of bottles. It's not like 28-year-old whiskey.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all like 12. They're all probably like what, 12-year-olds.
Well,
but there's 28 of them.
Yeah, but they're all from that particular year. So some of those 12-year-olds are from 18 years ago or 28 years ago. So they are, from a different year. So probably all have a unique thing. But you, Alan, you're doing something really unique at the distillery, aren't you? Auctioning off barrels, like you have a unique concept going on right now.
Yeah, well, we're not auctioning them, but we sort of started a couple months ago. Again, with all the turmoil and frankly anxiety over business in general these days, there's still, there's plenty of energy to say, wow, how can I help, be involved? Some of it's getting online and writing congressional representatives, and other is truly there are people, as always, but even more profoundly now, people in need. And so, our industry is the hospitality industry. So we reached out to a collection of chefs and related friends in hospitality and started sending out barrel samples to them from, if you will, our single barrel collection. And we're fortunate at this point in time, nine years in, to have several thousand 53-gallon barrels of rye whiskey. And we're trying to get our name out there in this time and in the other two. But the simple concept is people like Tom Colicchio and last night, Will Guadara, and we've got some fun ones coming up over the next several months, have selected single barrel samples to their liking. And we bottle them with signed and enumerated labels and a little caricature necker of that particular, if you will, celebrity, and do some cross promotion. And the key is that the chefs and our related hospitality friends, choose a hospitality charity that's meaningful to them. Mm-hmm. So it could be Independent Restaurant Coalition or World Central Kitchen, We've got a great barrel collaboration coming up with Garrett Oliver, the brewmaster from the Brooklyn Brewery, who is really just taken on a very significant and wonderful project to start the Michael Jackson Foundation. Wow. That is specifically missioned to support the technical education in brewing or distilling for people of color. And it's probably long needed, of course, but here we are in this moment of time, a chance to draw attention to it. And his specific barrel project will be to raise money for that cause. So it's been fun for us. We'll release once a month for about a year. And hopefully we'll be able to donate some good money and people will be able to get their hands on some whiskey. Yes, the bottles are signed and they have numbers on them, but damn it, open the whiskey. It's good to drink now.
Didn't stop me last night. No,
exactly
I cracked one open. It was delicious.
Amen. Thank you.
And where do they buy it, Alan? Where can people buy it?
You can find it on our website. It's usually it's direct sale and it takes you to a platform. These are people, as we know in our industry, that have followings, across the country and even more broadly. We can't sell these products outside of the United States, but if they go to nydistilling.com, it'll take you very swiftly to a platform that can ship anywhere, whether it's New York or other parts of the United States.
I got a million questions about that. How does that work?
Well, how does that work? So, retailers are licensed to ship across state lines. We are not, as New York Distilling Company. In full disclosure, amidst the COVID pandemic, Governor Cuomo has issued a state of emergency in the state of New York. Under that state of emergency, craft or boutique distilleries like ours have been granted authority to do direct-to-consumer shipping within the state of New York. Yes, I'd be honest, it has been a lifeline for us over these 6 months. In sum total, we've sold a couple hundred bottles. I'm truly not looking to adversely affect anyone that we work with, particularly at the retail level. But if you're in a place where there's not a retailer that carries our product and you have the interest to purchase our gin or rye at the typical, suggested retail pricing plus the cost of shipping, I say thank you very much with virtual hugs and kisses. It is a lifeline for us to create these revenue streams on a much broader scale. And this really speaks to the, almost immediate rise of the digital industry that was just sort of sitting out there, Drizzly and wine.com. And it's a nice business. And if you had a nice wine by the glass, maybe you could sell 100 cases at a time. Not my expertise, but all of a sudden we're all looking into opportunities on those types of platforms. And I would say likely, although not my expertise, but having spoken to enough people, that a lot of retailers are also looking to reinvent their business and create digital platforms where they can sell to a broader audience on screen rather than in-store experiences. So retailers can ship, there are at any given time, I think 14 states that do not allow intrastate shipping of alcohol. But aside from that, a retailer here can get a license, a permit, and ship alcohol. There's a finite limit to it by volume, but they can ship to customers in those states that allow it across the country.
Yeah. We talked about it last week with Lisa, and we've talked about it before, is that there are now businesses popping up. So you could ship to them, and then they will sell it to one retailer in each state, and then that retailer will then send it out. So they kind of act like they're kind of like a broker for you. Clearinghouse. So they're buying it in, but only one retailer. So still retailers are making some money off of it, but you're making business because you're able to sell it to other states and other stores, and then people will be able to order your product everywhere in the country, which is pretty amazing. But I think it is key bringing in the retailers. As you said, you don't want to hurt your retailer business, but obviously it's not going to be hurting them. People ordering directly from you. You're like another store. You're like the competition of another store. Because somebody said to me, one of my clients said, well, I don't want to do that. I'm going to hurt retailers. I'm like, no, you're just acting like another store So I don't think that's a problem to be able to order directly from you. I don't think it hurts anybody.
Sounds like a very
Just helps
difficult
you.
thing to build a business on because, one day the governor could just wave his wand again and say, we're not.
Well, you mentioned that. It's very true, Jason, because at least in the state of New York, the state of emergency, in this case from Cuomo, has to be re-upped every month. If he doesn't re-up it, then distilleries like ours lose the legal allowance to do direct-to-consumer shipping.
Oh, okay. So you get. So how do you even use that? I mean, how is that?
You're working, it's sort of a 3-week at a time business, and you say, well, are they going to sign it again? Is the executive order going to go through?
But
I'm being honest.
In the meantime, you have to train people on how to the shipping, the packaging.
Correct. Well, that's why, for the most part, we're looking at other digital options that are guaranteed with permanence.
Word. Well, let me know if you want to chat about that. There's some wild things that they're doing that teenagers are doing with their computers these days that is remarkable. It is remarkable how they communicate with people that they've never met.
Yeah, it absolutely is. All right. So I know we're wrapping it up, but I'd be remiss, Jason, if I didn't ask you about your book, because we do have some exciting news. My co-host has launched a book out there in the world. So Jason, you have to tell us a little about your book.
Yeah. So thank you. It's a book called Bartenders of Business. This is actually the first time I've pitched this out loud. But it's called Bartenders of Business. And I actually wrote it. It's available on Amazon at cost. At my cost, in either paperback or digital later this month on Kindle. But what it is it's a response to what's happening with the people that are out there working right now. The literally millions of hospitality workers that can't find a job. And so this is a book about how to leverage your skills as a hospitality worker into developing your own agency or your own consulting business, using the skills that you've gained from the field, from serving people. And so, I thought it was really important. I thought it was really important timing for this book to come out because, I really think that we all have an entrepreneurial spirit if you're a shift worker already. And so this is kind of hopefully will help you to build a brand, a business around what you already know. And that's kind of the concept of the book.
No, awesome. I think it's perfect timing because we skipped over the story, but about the employment rate right now. But the employment rate, they're not going to bring back most of the employers there's probably about a couple million people who will never get their job back because there just won't be the restaurants to employ them, and people are operating at less capacity. So a lot of people are going to have to find a new way to make a living, and I know a lot of people are going back to school. So Jason, I think it's perfect timing.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for putting that out there in the world.
No problem.
Cool. All right. So, Alan, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on the show with us.
You bet. Great to see you.
Great to see you as well. This has been the Industry Distilled podcast. If you like the show, please hit subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. Live recordings are posted to our Facebook page, so please head to Industry Distilled for more information. You can see all these lovely faces in person. And if you like our story, or if you'd like us to talk about something next week, please leave us some comments on our Instagram at Industry Distilled or on our Facebook page. So as always, the Industry Distilled is written by me, Elaine Duff, and produced by Jason Littrell. Oh my God, I can't talk.
Nailed it.
Editing and post-production by Danny Messina. Fact-checking by nobody.
Nobody checks the facts here.
Nobody at all. Nobody checks the facts. It doesn't mean our stories aren't true. It just means we don't have anybody checking them again.
Of course.
To make sure. On behalf of Jason Littrell, I'm Elaine Duff, and we will catch you next week.